Today we're diving into the world of aliens, my friends. Yes, you heard that right. Aliens. Mysterious beings from beyond the stars. Our story today takes us to Bonnie, Scotland. This isn't your typical UFO sighting. This UFO encounter involves an assault, unexplained injuries, and a police investigation. I'm Robbie Davis, and this is You Should Be Scared, your #1 destination for everything unsolved and unexplained. Buckle up and prepare for the truly bizarre alien abduction of Bob Taylor. Trust me, you won't want to miss this one. Bob Taylor wasn't your typical alien enthusiast. He was a forester in Livingston, Scotland, a man of simple pleasures, a pint at the pub, a bit of telly, and a smoke. Grounded and practical, he dealt with what was right in front of him. Little did he know, his life was about to take an extraordinary turn. For Bob Taylor, being a forester was in his blood. Generations of Taylors had tended these woods. He spent his childhood learning the forest's secrets. Bob was part of this landscape. Detchmont Woods were his sanctuary, but something extraordinary was coming. November 9th, 1979 began like any other day for Bob. The air was crisp with a hint of frost clinging to the fallen leaves. He kissed his wife Mary goodbye, pulled on his work boots, and headed out. Little did he know, his life was about to change forever. Bob was working in the woods that morning, clearing a new path for walkers. His red setter began to whine, and he turned to see an orange glow through the trees in a nearby clearing. As he got closer, a sense of unease crept over him. The air grew heavy, and his neck prickled with energy. Then, he saw it. A massive metallic dome in the clearing with pulsating lights around its base. Now Bob was a practical man. He didn't believe in fairy tales or little green men, but what he saw that night defied all logic. He stood there, frozen in place, caught between curiosity and terror. Then, the dome sprang to life. The lights pulsed faster, and two smaller spheres detached and came toward him. He described them as looking like World War II sea mines, covered in metal protrusions. A foul odour like the smell of burning brakes on a car filled the air. The spheres seized him and started to drag him towards a larger craft, and then everything went black and Bob lost consciousness. Bob couldn't tell how long he lay there in the clearing. It felt like an eternity. When he finally came to, he was on his back, staring up at the sky. The dome had vanished without a trace. The pale winter sun cast long, eerie shadows through the trees. The air was thick with the smell of ozone. Bob groaned, his head pounding, his body aching. He tried to sit up, but a sharp pain in his leg made him cry out. Bob, a tough old sod, was no stranger to outdoor scrapes, but these were far from ordinary injuries. His shirt was ripped open, as if clawed by a monster. He stumbled through the forest, desperate to find his dog. The trees seemed to close in, the shadows growing deeper. Imagine Bob's desperation to get home. Injured and disoriented, his mind reeling. The path seemed endless, trees looming like sentinels. He feared the glowing spheres would reappear. The thought of home spurred him on. He got back to his jeep where his dog was waiting. He jumped in and drove home as quickly as he could. He jumped out of the jeep and limped up to the cottage, his heart pounding. Mary nearly fainted at the sight of him. She quickly helped him inside and called for the doctor. Dr. Catnack was shocked by Bob's condition. He cleaned Bob's wounds and promised to return. The next morning, Dr. Catnack couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He decided to contact the police. Initially, they were skeptical about investigating a giant metal dome, but they agreed to take a look. And what they found was enough to make even the most skeptical Bobby raise an eyebrow. The police were accustomed to dealing with strange characters and tall tales, but this was something entirely different. The marks defied any natural explanation. They took plaster casts and called in a forensic team for further analysis. The evidence was undeniable. Something unusual had occurred. The story quickly made the news, thrusting Bob Taylor into the spotlight. Reporters camped outside his cottage. eager to hear his tale? Now, here's where things get really interesting. The police were stumped. They officially recorded the Detchmont Woods encounter as a case of criminal assault. Bob Taylor, the quiet forester, was the victim of this alleged assault. It was the first and only time a UFO encounter was investigated as a crime. The news of a police investigation into an alleged alien abduction sent shockwaves through the community. UFO enthusiasts flocked to Detchmont Woods, eager to see the site for themselves. Scientists, skeptics, and conspiracy theorists all weighed in with their own theories. Or was it, as Bob Taylor claimed, a genuine encounter with beings from another world? The Detchmont Woods encounter became a sensation, capturing the public's imagination. Bob Taylor became an unwitting icon of the UFO phenomenon. Despite the intense scrutiny, the truth behind the Detchmont Woods encounter remains a mystery. The police might have filed it away as a criminal assault, but the Detchmont Woods encounter was far from closed. Not for scientists, ufologists, or Bob Taylor. He couldn't shake the memory of that morning, the strange flying spheres, the smell of burning ozone. He knew what he'd seen. But how do you prove it? How do you convince the world? As you can imagine, the Detchmont Woods encounter was a treasure for ufologists. A witness, physical evidence, and a police investigation. They flocked to Detchmont Woods, eager to uncover the truth. Armed with notebooks, cameras, Geiger counters, and detectors, some dismissed Bob's story, but others believed him. They saw the encounter as proof that we are not alone in the universe. Not everyone was convinced by the alien abduction theory. Skeptics offered rational explanations for Bob Taylor's experience. One theory proposed a secret military exercise. The strange lights and marks could be from military hardware. Others suggested it was an elaborate hoax by teenagers. Some scientists believed it was a rare neurological phenomenon. The temporal lobe controls memory, sensory perception, and emotions. Sometimes it malfunctions, causing temporal lobe epilepsy. During a seizure, people can experience vivid hallucinations. They might see lights, hear voices, or feel lifted off the ground. These symptoms do seem to match up with Bob's experience. The strange lights of the craft that he saw, the feeling of being dragged by the spheres, and finally the loss of consciousness. It's a possibility, isn't it? There's another theory we haven't explored yet. Some believe Bob was deceived by a mirage of Venus. Venus can play tricks on the eye, especially under certain conditions. Bob might have been tired and stressed. Sounds pretty unlikely to me, but you never know. Next, remember those smaller spheres Bob described? Some believe they weren't alien probes at all. They think Bob might have mistaken sheep for alien spacecraft. Those fluffy white creatures roaming the Scottish countryside. And that dome-shaped object Bob described? Others reckon that it was just a water tower and Bob had seen it from a strange angle. I like this theory more for the cuteness factor of Bob being attacked by sheep, but I think it's very unlikely. Bob had worked all his life in the woods, so I feel it's pretty unlikely he'd get a sheep mixed up with a metal dome covered in spikes. Here's another theory for you, one that's more grounded in reality. They think it was caused by chemicals. Detchmont Woods is home to industrial sites using hazardous chemicals. Sometimes they escape. Imagine a cloud of toxic fumes wafting through the woods. Bob wanders into this chemical cloud. The fumes mess with his mind. He sees things, hears things, and feels things that aren't there. Seems plausible, but how did he get his injuries if it was just a hallucination? Well, folks, I'm not here to tell you what to believe. The Detchmont Woods encounter captures the imagination. Was it aliens, sheep, chemicals? Ultimately, it comes down to faith in the unknown. Sometimes, the most incredible stories turn out to be true. So, there you have it, folks. The strange and baffling tale of Bob Taylor and the Detchmont Woods encounter. A story of mysterious lights, unexplained marks, and a close encounter that continues to intrigue and divide opinions to this day. Was it a genuine alien abduction? A case of mistaken identity? Or something else entirely? The decision is yours. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unknown. Stay curious, stay cautious, and stay tuned. And remember, you should be scared,